This is my evaluation presentation. I chose to focus on evaluating the Danielson rubric. This is something that Marengo Community High School uses to evaluate their teachers. There are 6 steps to be followed to make an evaluation, and step 1 is assess the evaluation needs. So who wants this evaluation? Well, the administration at Marengo Community High School would want it, which includes the superintendent, the principal, the assistant principal / dean, and the director of special education. These are the individuals who perform the evaluations. Each teacher is assigned one of these evaluators, and they will be in charge of carrying out all your evaluations for the year. Marengo Community High School has approximately 800 students and 50 certified teachers that are all affected by this evaluation. The Danielson group also is someone who would want this evaluation, and these are the people that make the evaluation. They are founded by experts in the area of teacher effectiveness. Her name is Charlotte Danielson, and it seeks to positively impact student learning by applying concepts of Danielson's and enhancing professional practices. So what I've decided is the pool of secondary teachers given the questionnaire for the evaluation will come from all departments. So it's not single to the English department or science department. It will have everyone's opinions. So what will the relationship between the evaluator and the sponsor of the evaluation be? So for this evaluation, the relationship between the evaluator and the sponsor of the evaluation will be an independent relationship. So me, the evaluator, will take lead for the design and implementation and then share those results with the stakeholders. So as the evaluator, my relationship with the school is that I am a teacher at the school. I've been working there since 2014 and I'm in my 3rd year there currently. My goal is to eliminate bias since I am a teacher there by performing anonymous evaluations of the teachers and assure them that their input will not get back to administrative personnel. So in turn, it will not affect their job of performance just for participating for me. Why is the evaluation wanted? Well, it's wanted because there has been buzz that a lot of teachers do not find the framework effective or feasible. A lot of secondary teachers find that the framework has too high of expectations. That's hard for teachers to meet those expectations for every single lesson that they teach. When will the evaluation be conducted? It will be conducted during the 2nd semester during the 2016-2017 school year. Who will be conducting the evaluation? We kind of already went over this, but I will be doing it as an internal evaluator. I teach family and consumer science and I'm part of the Career and Technical Education Department at Marengo. Like I said, I joined the school in 2014, and I have been evaluated using the Danielson framework 9 times so far just at this school. It does not count previous schools that I have worked at. What are the resources available? The evaluator will use fellow secondary teachers to complete this evaluation. Like I said before, they will come from all departments of the school. What is the evaluability of the evaluand? Well, the evaluand is the Danielson framework, which is what teachers at the high school get evaluated on. For teachers that are not tenured, they get evaluated 3 times a year using this. And if they are tenured, they get evaluated 1 time every other year. So the evaluability is high since the entire certified staff gets evaluated based on this rubric. There are many states outside of Illinois that also get evaluated using this rubric. So what type of evaluation is most appropriate? And I decided that both formative and summative evaluation is most appropriate. Formative, because it's described as happening during the improvement of a program by internal evaluators with the intent to improve the program. So the goal of this evaluation is to come up with a rubric that realistically judges a teacher's evaluation given by administration with the input of teachers. Summative evaluations are described as to judge the worth or merit of the program, and the goal of this evaluation is to test if secondary teachers find that the Danielson framework is feasible in their everyday planning and teaching. So step 2, focus the evaluation. So who are the main stakeholders of the organization of the Danielson framework? So first and foremost, the Danielson group. They're the ones that are highly invested in this evaluand because they made it. The IEA, the Illinois Education Association. So this group is composed of more than 130,000 members of teachers of all levels in the state of Illinois. So the purpose of the group is to serve the interest of public education in Illinois. So if there was a huge outcry that this was not working, that they would be the ones that could lead a change, a real change. The school board of Marengo, so they're in charge of what happens in District 154 overall. So they make really important decisions regarding the high school. So they would be interested in the outcome of this, as well as the superintendent and the principal of Marengo. These two people, again, are in charge of the school, the happiness of teachers, the happiness of students and families, and all the above. So they would be especially interested in this. The purpose statement of this evaluation is to provide administration for District 154 in Marengo, Illinois, insight into teachers' perceived value of the Danielson framework. The evaluation will help administration to make decisions on the program's improvement and or continuance in relation to teacher evaluation. And my two key questions include, do you feel that your lesson plan with the Danielson rubric in mind on a consistent basis? And do you feel that the Danielson rubric accurately measures how good of a teacher you are? Would the CDC framework or the logic model be better suited for this evaluation? I chose the CDC framework because this type of evaluation is more or less figuring out teachers' feelings about the Danielson framework, not giving super hard facts. It's more of, a feeling. What do they think about it? So giving that to administration, letting them make a decision from there. Step 3 is to select an evaluation design. So out of the 6 evaluation designs, what is the most appropriate for this one? And I chose the one-shot design. The one-shot design is explained as measurement only taking place at one time at the conclusion and responding only to the evaluand. For this case of this evaluation, it would only be measured one time. So they would only be responding to about the Danielson rubric and nothing else. What challenges and limitations do I see with this evaluation process? One is organizational issues. When teachers at Marengo get hired, they're assigned an evaluator, which is someone in administration that I went through previously. This person can change over time. Mine did. At first, I had the principal, and then I got switched to the director of education. There's no really if and or why this occurs. It's just something that happens and administration decides. But teachers talk. They can compare notes on how different evaluators evaluate them. Someone might be much harder of an evaluator than someone else, so they might not think it's fair. The problem I can face, another one, is that when teachers get evaluated on the Danielson rubric, that they focus on their evaluation experience with their evaluator rather than focusing solely on the rubric. So I'm trying to figure out if the rubric is well designed to judge a teacher's performance in the classroom, and I'm not trying to figure out if their evaluator evaluates them fairly. Step 4 is determine data collection and analysis methods. So am I going qualitative or quantitative? Well, really I'm doing both because I'm performing an interview with 2 teachers from Marengo, as well as giving surveys, which counts as quantitative. And those are given via email to 20 teachers throughout different departments at Marengo. The data analysis, the main data will be looked at is the frequencies of answers given. The point of looking at frequencies is to determine the average of each answer. In the end, we'll be able to better decide the overall feelings of participants based on the frequencies given from the questions. So step 5 is to collect and analyze data. And so here is part of the survey given, so the questionnaire. So it starts off with some demographic questions, just what's your sex, how many years have you been teaching, and how much education have you completed. Then it goes into actual questions about the Danielson rubric. So one being, how often do you get evaluated using the Danielson rubric? And then all the questions to the side, questions 5 through 13, are ranking questions. So if they believe strongly about something, they will rank it a 5. And if they strongly disagree about something, they will rank it a 1, and then everything in between. So some of the examples of questions include: when I lesson plan in general, I actively think about how it would rank on the Danielson rubric. When I lesson plan, when I know I am getting evaluated, I actively think about how it would rank on the Danielson rubric. I believe that the Danielson rubric is a great representation of what I should be doing in my classroom daily. I believe that the Danielson rubric is a great representation of what makes a good teacher. When I get evaluated using the Danielson rubric, I always agree with the ratings my evaluator gives me. I believe there's a better way other than the Danielson rubric to measure how good of a teacher I am. I believe that the Danielson rubric is an unrealistic expectation for teachers to strive for on a daily basis for each individual class period. My evaluation ratings from the last full school year that I worked or was evaluated represent how good of a teacher I think I am. And lastly, I believe that teachers' raises should be based on their Danielson rubric evaluation scores and not how many years they've been teaching in the district or how much education they have. Continuing with step 5, I just wrote here what questions go hand in hand with the key questions. So 4, 5, 6, 7, 11 go with key question number 1, and 8, 9, 10, 12, and 13 go with key question number 2. Just to show that each question is written with purpose, aside from the demographic questions, of course, the purpose of each question answers a part of one of these key questions. So continuing on with collecting and analyzing data, this is the short interview I had with 2 different teachers at the high school. So at first I asked, how long have you been teaching? What is your teaching background? Teacher 1 is in blue and teacher 2 is in red, and these are just straight their answers given to me. So the first one has been teaching at Marengo for 6 years, and they started their career here after graduating from Northern Illinois University. And the other one graduated from Illinois State in 2008. After their graduation, got a job in Iowa, and then came back here in 2010 and got a job in Marengo. Then I asked, how do you feel about having to be evaluated as a teacher? Teacher number 1 said, I think it's fair that we get reviewed. I still get really nervous and dread it every time. And after it's over, I feel extremely relieved. But I do understand the need for evaluation in any job, so overall I think it is fair. While teacher number 2 said, I actually don't mind being evaluated. It's fair. I feel like in most jobs there is some type of evaluation to review performance. My friends who work in the corporate world get evaluated and get raises off of that review. Now that I think of it, I'm not entirely sure what I get based off my review. Interesting. Number 2, I asked, how do you feel about the Danielson rubric? Teacher 1 said, I am indifferent about the rubric we use at Marengo. I think the information in the rubric is a great goal to strive for as a teacher. However, if I had to do what the rubric requires every single day, I think I would end up quitting my job due to stress. While teacher number 2 says, I think having a rubric is a great idea. I'm a teacher, so it only makes sense that I think it is a great idea. The actual meat of the rubric, I think, is unrealistic as a everyday teacher. The amount of work I do to get ready for an evaluation takes hours, if not several days, to make sure I get the score of excellent in every category. If I had to do all of that for every single lesson, for every single class, as a high school teacher with 5 classes a day, I would go insane. Then I asked, do you think the Danielson rubric is a fair way to judge your performance? Teacher number 1 said, I think this is a tough question for me to answer. I think it depends on who's evaluating me. There are 4 different evaluators at school, and if you get stuck with the hard grader, then no, I do not think it's fair. But thankfully, I have one of the easier graders, which puts less stress on me. The point is, there are 40-something teachers at the school, and how we get evaluated isn't the same throughout. So as MTHS as a whole, it isn't fair because it isn't all the same. Teacher number 2 said, if I'm being honest, no, I do not think it is fair, and I do really well on my evaluations. I think what is expected on the rubric for every lesson is tough. Some categories on there are very subjective. I may think I am doing amazing on something, but my evaluator thinks I could do better, but my previous evaluator agreed with me. So yeah, sometimes it's really rough. Then I asked, what would you change about the Danielson rubric? Teacher number 1 said, I think it would be nice if we as teachers could give input on what we think we should be evaluated on. Maybe each school could edit it as they see fit, even if they had to get accepted by the Danielson Foundation. Teacher number 2 said, I wouldn't know what to necessarily change about the rubric, but I think it would be nice if we got a bonus at the end of the year based on our evaluations, just as we do with our students. Positive reinforcement for teachers. So here are some pictures of Marengo Community High School. This is the outside of the school, the top picture. This is just an M with a little logo. They're the Marengo Indians. This is a picture of when you enter the school. The front doors are right here, and then you walk in. And this is a picture of the main desk in the library. So step 6 is communicating and report findings. So here are just 3 graphs of the demographics. First one over here is the participant's gender. We have 60% female with 40% male. Years teaching. We have 60% that have been teaching, for 1 to 5 years, 30% teaching 6 to 10 years, and 10% teaching 11 or more. And education completed. We have 55% have just completed their bachelor's, while 45% have completed their master's as well. There is no one with any higher education than a master's. So here are some more graphs. Questions 5 and 6 deal with lesson planning and how teachers think about the Danielson rubric. So the light blue right here represents the number of teachers who think actively about the Danielson rubric while lesson planning for an everyday lesson, meaning that you're not planning on getting evaluated that day or an administrator walking your class. This is just every single day that you're teaching. And you can see that the numbers are pretty low. Most strongly disagree that they think about the rubric when they are planning their lessons. The darker blue down here represents the numbers of teachers who actively think about the Danielson rubric while lesson planning for an evaluation they know is happening that day. So when they know they're getting evaluated, they strongly agree, every single person, that they think about the lesson. Over here, questions 7 and 8 deal with what teachers think the Danielson rubric represents. The light blue represents the numbers of teachers who think the Danielson rubric is a great representation of what they should be doing in the classroom every day. You'll see most disagree with this, while some are indifferent. And we had 1 agree. No strongly agrees. And the darker blue represents the number of teachers who think the Danielson rubric accurately represents what makes a good teacher. So again, we have kind of a standstill here. They don't necessarily agree or disagree with that, which I thought was really interesting in my findings. I thought I would get a lot of strongly disagrees or strongly agrees with that. So question 9, when I get evaluated using the Danielson rubric, I always agree with the rating my evaluator gives me. So 50% actually agreed with that, which is really good. We had a few disagrees, a few indifferents, and 25% actually strongly agreed with that. So you'll see 75% of the teachers are actually pretty okay with the scores they get from there. Question 10, I believe there is a better way other than the Danielson rubric to measure how good of a teacher I am. 50% are indifferent, so they didn't necessarily agree or disagree that there's a better way. And I think that's mainly because they don't know any other options, whether they're good or bad options. If they've just been using the Danielson rubric their whole career, then they wouldn't know of any other way. I have been using the Danielson rubric ever since I graduated college in 2012. So I don't even know another way to get evaluated other than the Danielson rubric. Question 11, I believe that the Danielson rubric is an unrealistic expectation for teachers to strive for on a daily basis for each individual class period. And you'll see 60% here agreed and 10% strongly agreed. So 70% of the people that took this survey think it's unrealistic for a teacher to strive for on a daily basis. There's just too much involved in the rubric to think about for every single lesson. Question 12, my evaluation ratings from the last full year that I worked represent how good of a teacher I think I am. So 55 agree with this and 30% are indifferent. So we have kind of mixed findings here. There are a lot that do agree that they do well on these and that they think that it represents how good of a teacher they are. But a lot are indifferent. A lot don't really necessarily know if they agree with that or not. Question 13. I believe that the teachers' raises should be based on their Danielson rubric evaluation scores and not necessarily how many years they've been teaching in the district or how much education they have, which right now Marengo raises depend on how many years you've been working there, along with how much um, further education they have. They're called steps and lanes. So it goes up every year and goes over as well, meaning getting higher depending on how much education there is. So we'll see here that this one's pretty evenly spaced out. 30% agree, 35% are indifferent, and 30% disagree. So I would assume this that a lot disagree because just working in the district every year and getting their master's or second master's or doctorate is kind of easier than always striving for perfect evaluation scores, depending on this when their evaluations occur. You know, a lot depend on the students, a lot depend on even your mood for that day. So it could be, some of them could be unfair. So the summary of my findings, overall, it seems that the majority of the teachers that participated in the survey do not believe that the Danielson rubric is a fair judgment on their teaching abilities. An idea for further research could include what teachers do think would be fair judgment of their teacher and then how the administration could implement that. That is the end of my evaluation. Thank you for tuning in.